And welcome back to Good Morning from the Office. It is Tuesday, August 27th. I'm Richie Stone in today for BKP, who's on assignment. I think he'll be back tomorrow. I'm not completely sure, but it's game week. It is game week finally. We finally made it through the 8 months of having to watch college basketball and the NBA. And although I love baseball more than anything, having to watch baseball every night, thankfully the Braves are good, so it wasn't as bad as years past. But this is what I and so many others live for. It's time for college football, and I couldn't be happier. So, Josh, you said you had something. Yeah, there it is. Okay, the top three teams. Much like last year and the year before, we have Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia. Obviously, those are the big three that have really set themselves apart here in the last couple of years. You could probably throw Oklahoma in there, too. I mean, they've been in the playoffs actually more than Georgia. Is this the year Georgia can finally beat Bama? Will anybody beat Clemson? There's old Trevor Lawrence right there, a guy that we got to see play several times up this way when he was in high school at Cartersville. One of the most dominating high school players I ever saw, and obviously picked up right where he left off in college, winning the national championship as a true freshman, even though he actually did not win a state championship his senior year, as many of you know, when he was at Cartersville, one of the bigger upsets. And then in the middle, you had Tua Tagovailoa. I hope to not have to say his name again this entire episode. We'll just call him Tua. Not real sure. He's from Hawaii, so obviously I never got to see him play in high school, but I'm sure he was good. And then of course Jake Fromm, the man who was once committed to Alabama, and his decommitment to go to Georgia with Kirby Smart opened the door for Tua to go to Alabama and beat Jake Fromm in Georgia and in the second half of the national championship game 2 years ago. I won't bring that up anymore because I really can't talk about it yet. So those are the top three, but Josh, I'm not even completely sure that those three are in the playoffs. Which one out of those three do you think is the biggest lock to get back to the Final Four?
For me, I want to say that's a tough. If I'm only having to pick one, it's hard to go against Clemson. They just looked so dominant last year, and Trevor Lawrence is a heck of a quarterback.
Sure is.
It's like the Chosen when they looked down and said, "Here's all the football ability in the world. Take it and run with it," because he's good.
Great hair too.
Yeah, it was. It's funny. Of course, I always have to bring Georgia Southern up, but we were playing Clemson last year, and Kelly Bryant was still the starter for Clemson at the time. And Georgia Southern was actually giving him a fit and roughing him up pretty good. So they took him out and put Lawrence in, and then the rest is pretty much history.
Yeah, that game was close for a while.
Yeah, it was. We picked Lawrence off shortly after he came in, and we kept it, like you said, somewhat close. But in the end, their depth and athleticism just played out.
And Clemson opens against Georgia Tech in Clemson on Thursday night. I think that's the first game of the week, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know who that guy is on the picture. Somebody for Georgia Tech. I think it's going to be a rough one for the Yellow Jackets this year. They have a new coach,
whole new scheme,
right? And as an example, here's a great example. So you're a Georgia Southern guy. When Chris Hatcher became the head coach at Georgia Southern, and they had to quit running. They had run the triple option forever.
Yeah, we went back to the spread.
And
or not back to it, we went to the spread.
Yeah, air raid, and it was whenever you change offenses like that from a triple option to something completely different, it's going to take time because
all the players that have been recruited up until that year are there for the option.
Right, and you got guys that were O linemen that suddenly have to play defensive end because they don't pass, they don't know how to pass block, or they They're just not the prototypical pass blocker. I think at Georgia Southern they had one of those. I think it was a former receiver, Jason Foster.
Yeah, Jason Foster.
Had
out
to play
of Cherokee County, Canton.
Yeah, played quarterback, and he did. Even though they ran the air raid, he ran a lot. And
he did run a lot. He won a Walter Payton Award.
Yeah, he was very good, and it ended up not ultimately working out with Hatcher, and they went back to the triple option. But point being that was back when Southern was still FCS.
We were in the SoCon.
Yeah, with the Citadel and Sanford and all them, and in the ACC, that's a different animal. And I mean, granted, they might surprise us. I mean, I have them. I think they'll be lucky to win 4 or 5 games. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm looking. I was in the 5 to 7 range. It seems like the new coach has got the boys fired up, and they had some good ball players too. So had a decent little recruiting class come in. I don't know. They've got a tough schedule. I mean, the ACC has got some solid football teams in there. Might be a tough year for them, but I think if they go anything close to 500, they should consider that a good year and build off of it and move on.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Georgia Tech and you can somehow get to a bowl game, I mean you might as well win the national championship, because that's a whole extra month of practice to get this thing put together. You can get early enrollees in January that can add to it. So you're really getting ready for 2021. So I'm looking at their schedule here. Sure, the ACC is it does have some good teams, but it's not. I mean, it's not the Alabama or Florida or some of those SEC schools week in and week out.
Yep.
When you get Duke, you get Pittsburgh, you get Virginia, NC State. 6 wins maybe. I mean, going on the road to Clemson week 1 and then hosting South Florida. We'll know a lot there. I think the Citadel might give them fits, but I think they probably win that one, and then they got to go to Philadelphia and play Temple. So a lot of these, it could go either way. A lot of these programs that have new coaches as well. So, So the over/under for Tech and Clemson, I just had it here somewhere. Okay, here we go. 59.5. Clemson is a 36-point favorite.
36 point is the spread.
Yeah. That means they don't expect Georgia Tech to score very much.
No.
So, should be interesting. I'm interested just to watch. I think it's been a long time since Tech ran, I guess, since Chan Gailey. When did Chan Gailey leave? 06, 07, sometime around there?
I think so.
And Paul Johnson came in and actually had a lot of success with Chan Gailey's players. And then,
Yeah, Paul Johnson started in 2008.
Okay.
With Tech.
Yeah, and then I think they won it in 2009. They won the ACC his second year. And then they got back to a BCS Bowl. They went to the Orange Bowl again in, 13 or 14 maybe, and just destroyed Mississippi State. So Tech was always that team with Paul Johnson that, every 4 or 5 years, it's almost like a high school program where you rebuild it and you get what you call the program guys who stick around for 5 years and can kind of be your anchor. And then if you can just have a couple, 2, 3 playmakers, especially with that offense they used to run, it would work. So I'm excited. The new coach, Jeff Collins is his name, right?
I think so, yep.
And he's an Atlanta guy. He's been around. He was at Alabama, I think. So I'm excited to see how he can recruit. I notice wherever he goes, he wears a Braves hat. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I did.
He wears that Atlanta A. He's really trying to sell the notion of this being the Atlanta school, which I think is a great idea because Tech has all sorts of stigmas as far as it's known as the smart school. I won't say nerds, but athletics isn't the first thing you think of, and if you can brand it as athletics, which they did at one time, I think it can be pretty successful. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Academics is a big thing there. It's not an easy place to get accepted and succeed as a student, so that definitely plays a big role in recruitment as well.
Yeah, I think that's half their problem historically, is that you got these kids got to qualify. I mean, I think it's a problem you saw at Notre Dame too, where it's hard to get in, and they're not going to lower their academic standards, and I applaud them for that. I mean, that's pretty much what got why Georgia Tech left the SEC in the first place. They were a charter member of the SEC, and they weren't on board. I guess they didn't want to be in the same sentence with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got some other ones. Some more of our local teams. Well, go ahead and just fire away at me, Josh. Whoever you got.
All right, we'll throw up Georgia. We got Georgia playing at Vandy Saturday.
7:30 p.m. on the SEC Network. When do you think the caravan up to Nashville to party on Broadway is going to leave? Maybe Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah, maybe. I know Georgia fans are excited for the season to get underway. Most people I'm talking to, which I know this is the same thing every year, but a lot of them think this could finally be it. You've had 2 shots at Alabama, third time's a charm. A lot of people are really expecting big things out of Fromm and the Dogs this year.
Yeah, I feel like with Georgia throughout my life, it's, one thing's for sure, they're probably going to let you down. Number 2, the years when there's the most hype, they seem to underachieve. So what strikes my mind is 08 when Matt Stafford was a junior and A.J. Green and O'Shawn Marino were all there, and they underachieved after winning the Sugar Bowl the year before. The David Green, his senior year with David Pollock, after they had done so much and they underachieved. They got beat by an awful Tennessee team at home. There's many examples. Some of those Aaron Murray teams that were supposed to be good and weren't. So I don't know. I mean, full disclosure, I'm a fan of Georgia. I grew up about 20 miles from Athens. Spent my childhood going over there, going to games, going to the game day, watching people drink a lot of beer, and it's in my heart. I'm a Georgia kid, but you got to be realistic with them, because if you choose to get on that roller coaster, it'll take you for a ride. And the minute you start to buy back in and think, oh man, this is it, they will snatch it away from you. It's inevitable. It happened happened against Alabama twice now, or really 3 times if you want to go all the way back to the 2012 SEC championship. And that's just what they do. Now, don't take my skepticism as negatively. I think they do have a very good team. I think they're locked and loaded. I think the recruiting has been fantastic, and even last year, I think everybody said that 2019 is going to be the real year. This is Kirby's 4th season. It's pretty much all his players now, except for a few 5th-year seniors here and there, guys that he has recruited. And I don't think Vanderbilt's going to be a problem. There's a lot more to the full season. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. Vandy shouldn't really be a problem for Georgia. I think the beginning game of the year is always a tricky one, because you don't know really how well prepared each team is going to show up being. You can practice and scrimmage all day, but until you're live action out there against another team, you really don't know what to expect. I want to say Vandy was 21-point underdogs?
Yeah, some have it at 19, from 19 to 21, there in that range, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I think they might cover it, to be honest.
I could see that happening because I mean it's odd for the first game of the season to be a conference game. I don't remember the last time that happened, if
I
it's
know
ever
that's
happened.
happening with Tech and Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I've seen a few of them.
I remember South Carolina used to always open up with maybe it was A&M or somebody, and on the Thursday night game. But yeah, that's kind of odd that this is the first game for both teams. And heck, I bet Vanderbilt's going to be ready. I mean, if you're the subpar team in the equation, you have all summer, all off season, spring practice, all that to have Georgia circled and game plan and get ready.
Yep, and some of the most exciting games for a team is their home opener. So you're going to have a lot of people there amped up, ready for the season. Crowds can definitely play a big role in a game.
Yeah, but I mean, as I'm sure you're well aware, when Georgia goes up there, I mean, number one, Nashville already has a huge alumni base of UGA folks, and it's not a long trip. And Nashville's such a fun town that stadium is going to be, I'd say, over 50% red.
Yeah,
if not more, and that's always an advantage for Georgia when they go up there because that's always the case. Vanderbilt obviously isn't typically very good, but they've played them. I mean, for the last decade or so, whenever they've gone up to Vandy, it's been a close game. Vandy's even beat them a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So should be interesting, but I think at the end of the day, it's not X's and O's, it's Johnny's and Joe's, and Georgia's got the Johnny's and Joe's for that matchup.
That's true.
So who else we got?
A couple of local teams that people care about. Tennessee and Georgia State face off.
That's going to be a fun one. How did Georgia State end up last year? Did they end up in a bowl game?
No.
They didn't?
No, not even close. They were like, they might have had 2 or 3 wins.
So it was the year before where they won the conference?
Oh, they didn't win the conference, I think, but they did go to a bowl game. Georgia State hadn't won a conference yet.
Okay, so you're a Georgia Southern guy, so you can't stand them, right?
That's correct. I grew up a Tennessee fan, so I'm hoping they just, destroy them.
You grew up a Tennessee fan?
Yeah.
So I'm looking up this Georgia State season by season.
I would, but I don't want that in my search history. I don't need to start getting advertisements for Georgia State.
Yeah, so Sean Elliott is in his 3rd season there, and it says he's 9-15. That doesn't. Well, I guess that does add up. I was going to say that's.
Yeah, they were 2-10 last year, 1-7 in the Sun Belt.
So Trent Miles, maybe, or I remember one year didn't they beat Georgia Southern, and I guess maybe it was a big upset.
Yeah, they beat us a couple years in a row while we had that crazy head coach Tyson Summers that kind of brought in last minute, and he said he was going to run the option and changed the whole offense up. It was awful. It was a terrible experiment.
Who's their coach now? Oh, we're going to get to them in a minute. Okay. So as far as this game's concerned, I'm really excited to see where Tennessee is in year 2 under Jeremy Pruitt. I think he's the right guy. I think I always go back when me and my buddies talk about this. When Mark Richt got shown the door at Georgia, and the news was, I think it was like Channel 2 or somebody was at the Butts-Mehre building in Athens, and a bunch of players were walking out of the building, and they're like, who do you want the next head coach to be? They're like, we want Pruitt. They loved him. That guy has what they call the killer instinct. He's mean, he's nasty, and he wants to destroy you, and that's what Tennessee needed. But you could probably speak better to it than I can.
Yeah, they've been in shambles ever since. Well, not in shambles, but they've been on the way down ever since they let Fulmer go. Lane Kiffin, another failed experiment, so much so that they named a water sewage plant after him. That was bad all around. And then Derek Dooley comes in, No, I don't know. I think he's a good coach. I mean, he went to the Cowboys and has been pretty successful with the Dallas Cowboys as I want to say like a wide receivers coach maybe.
Yeah, now he's in Missouri.
Yeah, but I guess he just wasn't ready for a head coaching job at the time. He couldn't get the job done. And then we went to Butch Jones, who a lot of people thought was going to be the one that turned it around, and they had some decent teams under him, had some good players, and they were like Josh Dobbs and a few others. But again, just nothing ever turned the corner. He couldn't ever get over the hump. So, now we got Pruitt at the helm, and I think you're right. A lot of these coaches that are kind of part of the Saban mold, they do well. So far, they can't beat Saban, but that maybe that day's coming. But I think this is the guy to get him turned around. He gets a few recruiting classes in there. The fans need to stay patient with him. Realize you can't rebuild a team overnight, and I think they'll get back to their winning ways.
And that's another thing that a lot of the casual fan doesn't necessarily realize. Trying to think of the best way to put this. So you look at somebody like Butch Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had been Rutgers, Ferris State, Central Michigan,
Cincinnati,
all these Michigan schools, and then Cincinnati, Ohio, and then he was with Rich Rodriguez for a little while at West Virginia, but he comes into Tennessee having never really recruited the Southeast, whereas a guy like Pruitt had. He was the defensive coordinator for Rush Probst at Hoover High School. He then goes and works at Alabama with Saban. He's at Florida State, in Tallahassee, wins a national championship. Goes to Georgia. That guy has actively recruited 3 of the best football states in the country. So that is such a major, major part of this game, as you well know. And, I think that was the idea with Derek Dooley, but it just never seemed right to me. The fact that, the name and seeing Vince and Barbara Dooley at a Tennessee game was always really weird.
Yeah.
He's a very good coach. I want to say he is the OC at Missouri now after being the tight ends coach at Dallas. So they failed experiment, and really working backwards on your list to Lane Kiffin. I'll maintain it till the day I die. He was a great hire.
Yeah. If he would have stayed there, they'd be in great shape.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I despise USC more than I despise Lane Kiffin, or I despise whoever signed Kiffin to that contract that made it so easy for him to leave after 1 year?
Yep, was it 1 or? I think so.
Let's look that up. I think it might have been only 1 year, and that guy has more. He has 9 lives. 2009, 1 year. And he's still only 40. He's 44 years old, and he was a head coach in the SEC 10 years ago. Head coach in the NFL 12 years ago. So that means he was a head coach in the NFL at the age of 32.
Yeah.
And all this talk about Sean McVay, and I guess Lane was just as young, if not younger. That still blows my mind. And the fact that he was able to then go to USC where he failed miserably, and then Saban really gave him a chance before firing him on the eve of the national championship game.
Yeah.
What a guy. Old Lane Kiffin. You're cool when Lil Wayne is mentioning you in rap songs 10 years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Yeah, I can't repeat it on the air, but basically he alluded to talking a lot of smack, to put it nicely. But yeah, Pruitt is. I think Pruitt's on the right track. I don't know if they're gonna get over the hump and like win the East or anything, but I could see them maybe beating Florida after seeing Florida the other day. I could see them going down there and winning a 9-6 field goal game.
Yeah,
forcing Felipe Franks to throw like 6 picks.
it's possible.
They're a 25.5 point favorite at home against Georgia State. What do you think?
I think they cover that and then some.
Yeah, they're gonna have fun with it.
I hope so. I hope they put the pedal down.
Yeah, make a statement. All right, what else we got?
We'll stick with a Sun Belt team, moving from Georgia State over to some school down in Statesboro. Got Georgia Southern traveling to Baton Rouge Saturday, take on the LSU Tigers in Death Valley.
So there's a really funny story. I know I talk about it a lot, but hey, can you hit my mute real quick? Sorry, I think I'm about to sneeze. So I've talked about this before, how when I was in college, I was the video coordinator at Valdosta State, and we had this long lineage of coaches that include Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart. And there's this story that got told through the grapevine that everybody used to laugh about, that when Muschamp got his job with Saban at LSU, and the previous coaching staff had scheduled Georgia Southern, and this was when I want to say Paul Johnson may have still been there.
Mm-hmm.
And they get there, and it's summertime, and they're looking at film, and they're watching Georgia Southern play, and the athletes they got, and how sharp they are on that option, and how disciplined it is. And when run the right way with those kind of guys, it's not easy to defend. It's actually very, very. It's in theory, anybody who runs that offense will tell you it's actually impossible to stop if done the right way, because there's physically no way to do it.
Right.
And the famous story is that Muschamp was like, "Coach, we got to get them off the schedule." And sure enough, they did. And the irony of all that is when Muschamp got to Florida, he inherited Georgia Southern on his schedule again and lost.
Lost to them.
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah, and now they're going to play LSU. My best friend is a huge LSU guy. The whole family's alumni. Those people are seemingly everywhere. I can't go anywhere in either North Georgia or South Florida or heck, even the West Coast without seeing these LSU tags everywhere with that eye of the tiger. Kind of gets on my nerves.
Speaking of scheduling, we can't get Florida anymore. They don't want anything to do with us after that loss for them. And our athletic director tries to get Georgia, and they won't have any part of us either. That last game we had against them was a close one.
Well, they should have beat Georgia.
Yeah, we should have. I won't go into that on air because I'll be here for a while, but there was some questionable stuff that happened on the field that day. That there was even a Georgia beat reporter that wrote about it that was on the sideline. So that way you don't think I'm a conspiracy guy. But I think Georgia Southern, they've been through a lot the last few weeks. Our starting quarterback was arrested on cocaine charges after pleading with the officer that it was bird poop. Test came back and it was indeed bird poop.
That's right.
So of course everything got dropped and there's no suspension or anything. He'll be starting QB1 Saturday.
Probably a lawsuit. Oh, God.
I hope so. The Georgia Southern as a whole got them to delete their whole Facebook page. That sheriff's office, there were so many comments from Eagle fans, even people that weren't Georgia Southern Eagle fans, just that caught part of the news. It was a crazy situation. When the camera footage came out, he was mistreated. I mean, the guy,
big time,
had it out for him from the get-go.
Yeah, it was it was over the state line, right? It was in South Carolina.
Yeah, Saluda County, South Carolina. If you're ever going through there, you make sure you wash your car before you go through.
Right.
Don't even be going 1 mile per hour over. Now, he was speeding. There's no doubt about that. He knows he was speeding, but that's what started the whole thing. And he was trying to drive to a well-lit area, as most young black men are taught. And he called 911 and told him that he was doing that. And I guess the officer felt like he was trying to show him up or something. and was just mad from the get-go. But Georgia Southern, they're going to put that behind them. I think they're going to show up motivated. We've got a huge group going down. I didn't get to make the game. I wanted to, but I was at Auburn a couple years ago when we opened the season there, and we had a good group go down. But that's when we had that coach I was talking about, Tyson Summers. We now have Chad Lunsford. He's a true Blue Eagle. He's an Eagle through and through.
Triple option guy.
And we've he took over. We went 2-10 2 years ago under Summers, and a couple games with Lunsford at the end, and then we came back with a great season last year, capped it off with a bowl win, and a lot of our players are returning. We got 2 corners that a lot of people think might go in the first couple of rounds of the NFL draft.
Now, is this quarterback, is he the guy you had last year?
Yeah, he's a junior this year, so we have him another year too. His name is Shy Wertz.
And who's the head coach now?
Chad Lunsford.
Lunsford, that's right. And he was, let me look him up.
He's been with Georgia Southern for a while under different coaches.
That's right. He actually is from Elberton.
Mm-hmm.
Played for T. McFerrin, I believe. Tyson Summers is interesting. The head coach I worked for at Valdosta State, David Dean, was brought on to be Summers' co-offensive coordinator, and I know there was some stuff in the media. I think it's well documented how all of that didn't end well, and Dean ended up, he's now the head coach at West Georgia.
Right.
But apparently there was a lot of turmoil there with Summers.
Yeah, it was bad all around.
Yeah.
No coordinators weren't happy, and they were let go after just 1 year, and it caused all kinds of problems.
Yeah, something about the contract terms or something.
Yeah, but we're picked. We haven't been picked to do anything since we joined the Sun Belt. We were picked to finish last our first year, and we won the Sun Belt. And then that coach wasn't offered anything, so he left for Tulane. That was Willie Fritz, and that's when Summers came in. I'm hoping that we can do better than we did last year. We had a good year last year, but a lot of people say that we had an easy schedule and that we're going to go backwards a little bit. But we had one of the most disciplined teams in college football history with I want to say we had 5 turnovers the entire year. Had a turnover margin that was one of the highest for a season. And quarterback didn't throw any interceptions. He hasn't in over a season. So we take care of the ball, and defense gets after it. So, and like you said, if the triple options run right, it's hard to stop.
So all in all, what are your thoughts overall on how on the whole move up to Division I? Is that something that you're in favor of? I mean, are you glad they did it, or is it the kind of thing where, I know they say this a lot at Valdosta, it's like, well, why don't you move up from D2? It's like, well, because we can win national championships, and it's fun to be able to do that. Is that something you miss being able to do the playoffs and all?
Yeah, when we were Division I AA, as it used to be called, FCS now, it was fun. When my freshman year was the last year of Hatcher, the Hatch attack as they called it.
Yeah.
And then we brought the option back, and once that happened, we were just immediately good again. We were in the playoffs, losing to North Dakota State. Unfortunately, we had 1 year where we didn't have any kickers. We could have won the entire championship if we'd had kickers. But, yeah, I miss the thrill of knowing, hey, we're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country year in, year out in our division. And the road to the national championship was usually coming through Statesboro. We had 6 of them at that level. But it is more exciting, too, to play some of these bigger schools, and we're getting better recruits. Georgia Southern, they want to win. I think they can do it with the option. I think it can be done at the higher level. I mean, we saw Georgia Tech have success with it in some years. It's all about getting the right guys in there and playing extremely disciplined football. The thing that you have to worry about is a good defense, because you can't get behind with an option. You get 2 or 3 touchdowns
Right.
behind, and it's hard to start coming back. But
And it's hard, and when you have that offense, it's hard to give your defense a good look at practice.
Right.
Because it's hard for an option quarterback to then go play like a freshman, redshirt freshman, go try to be Trevor Lawrence in practice. It just you don't have the personnel to do it.
Exactly.
And that's when it starts to hurt your defense. But to your point with Georgia Southern, though, they don't have the academic roadblocks, that Georgia Tech has.
Right.
So I think, I definitely see your point. I think they're the kind of team where they could be like a Boise State down the road, where, they schedule games like this every year, and if they can win one and get in the top 25 and then just stay undefeated, they could be in the conversation.
We were right at like 26, 27, 28 last year. We beat App State, our big rival, got to number 25 the week that they came to Statesboro, and I was down there for that game, and we beat them. And we thought that was going to push us in, and that got us up to like 26. And then we went and off of a big win, we let our guard down and lost the next game, and that pretty much killed any chance of top 25. But I want to say preseason we're in the 30s, so if we start out hot, we might get ourselves up there.
Well, if Georgia Southern goes to Baton Rouge and beats LSU, they will be in the top 25. I can guarantee you. I don't think there's any question.
That would be awesome. We play up against big teams, and like I said, we're disciplined. The first game of the year, anything can happen.
And they got athletes. They always do.
We've got some good athletes. We had a couple transfers that are going to be playing for us this year. J.D. King's a running back from Oklahoma State.
I know who he is. Yeah.
He's from Georgia.
Uh-huh.
He had a medical thing with a parent, I believe, and he transferred back. They weren't going to let him play this year.
About one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
They weren't going to let him play this year because you have to be within a certain amount of miles from your home to the school that you transfer to. And he was like a measly 7 miles too far. But they appealed, and it just got cleared a few days ago. So he is eligible this year.
Yeah, and that's just one extreme to the other as far as system goes.
Right.
He's fast.
Yeah, he's fast, and he's a workhorse. He's the type of back Georgia Southern loves. We have 3 running backs, or 2 running backs in the NFL right now, McKinnon and Breida.
Yeah.
So
Brady's a good ball player. So 25.5 point underdog going into Red Stick, also known as Baton Rouge. Over under 60 points. I think Southern's going to cover. Most LSU people I talk to thinks they will too.
Yeah.
They're not thrilled about this game. So if that's any consolation, one bonus for everybody: Oregon and Auburn. I believe that game is in Dallas.
I think so.
And boy, Auburn. If Auburn wants to avoid being made fun of by a lot of people, they need to win that game. Rematch of the 2010 National Championship.
Oregon's got a good quarterback, Justin Herbert, I believe is his name.
Yep, Justin Herbert.
Right now he's listed as the number 2 quarterback off the board in the NFL draft behind Tua.
Which I think is absurd.
Yeah.
I think I can name 2 guys off the top of my head that I think are better NFL prospects. Jake Fromm, but maybe I think a lot of people think Fromm's going to stay in school though. And then the guy who I think is my dark horse to win the Heisman Trophy. You ready for this?
Yep. Jacob
Eason.
He won the job. He made the other guy transfer out of Washington. So
I think he was the best quarterback. When Georgia went on their national championship run, I thought he was the best quarterback on the team the whole time.
And can we talk about this trend of players losing a starting job somewhere and they just leave? They don't stick to fight for it.
Yeah. You want to talk about that when we come back from break?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
We'll be right back, everybody.